Sign the chart, ungrateful pest, or I'll put you in the cage where you belong. Officer Mercer's palm slammed into Monica Reed's spine, his thumb grinding her faded scrubs into skin. Beside him, Officer Hensley gripped her arm, his boots squeaking on the waxed floor while pinning her against the desk. To them, she wasn't a charge nurse with 20 years of service. She was just a black woman who dared to say no to their authority and the hospital's illegal demands. The first metal cuff ratcheted shut, the sharp clack echoing off sterile walls like a gunshot. Monica stood perfectly still as both men wrenched her arms upward, trying to force her to sign the falsified medical record. They smirked, savoring her humiliation. Mercer and Hensley thought they were silencing a difficult employee. They had no idea they were currently handcuffing the $6.7 million ruin of their own lives. Before continuing, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you can't miss. The cardiac wing hummed with midnight tension. Monica Reed's comfortable shoes squeaked against the freshly waxed floor as she moved between rooms, her experienced eyes scanning vitals and checking IVs. 20 years of nursing had taught her to read the subtle rhythms of a hospital at night. Something felt off. The alarm from room 412 pierced the quiet. Monica's head snapped up, her body already moving before conscious thought kicked in. Walter Price's heart monitor was screaming. "Code Blue, room 412, she called out, rushing through the door. The elderly patient's skin had taken on a grayish tinge, his breathing shallow and irregular. Monica's fingers flew over the controls, checking his most recent medication entries. "What's happening?" Dr. Grant Holloway burst in, his white coat flapping. His usual polished demeanor cracked as he saw the numbers on the screen. Monica's trained eye caught the discrepancy immediately. "Doctor, there's a dosage conflict in the chart. The evening entry shows 50 milligrams, but your verbal order was for 15. She kept her voice steady, professional, even as alarm bells rang in her mind. "That's impossible," Holloway snapped, but sweat beaded on his forehead. "I was clear about—" "His pressure's dropping," Monica cut in, already preparing the correction. She could feel Holloway hovering behind her, his breath coming fast and uneven. "We need to stabilize him now." The door banged open again. Evelyn Price hurried in, her face tight with worry. Behind her stood a young man in an expensive suit, his manicured hands clutching a phone. Monica recognized him as James Whitmore III, son of the hospital's biggest donor and fiancé to Walter's daughter. "What's going on?" James demanded. "I was told everything was fine an hour ago." "Mrs. Price, please keep everyone back," Monica said firmly, positioning herself between the family and the bed. She met Evelyn's eyes and saw understanding there. This wasn't the older woman's first hospital crisis. "Let them work, James," Evelyn said, placing a restraining hand on his arm. "Monica knows what she's doing." Monica's fingers moved with practiced efficiency, adjusting medication levels while monitoring Walter's response. The wrong dosage could have killed him if it hadn't been caught in time. She felt Holloway's nervous energy behind her, heard him speaking in low tones into his phone. Through the glass walls, she glimpsed Vanessa Klein's sleek figure striding down the hallway, already in damage control mode despite the late hour. The hospital's chief operating officer never missed a potential PR crisis, especially when it involved the Whitmore family. "BP's starting to respond," Monica reported, watching the numbers climb slowly back toward normal range. Walter's color was improving, but they weren't out of danger yet. She documented each step meticulously. Doses, times, responses, everything had to be precise. "This is ridiculous," James Whitmore III announced, his voice carrying that particular tone of entitled impatience Monica had heard too many times before. "Do you have any idea who I am? Who my father is?" "Sir, please step back," Monica said firmly. "Mr. Price needs—" Don't tell me what he needs. I want to know how this happened. Evelyn Price stepped between them. James, that's enough. Let them work. Monica kept her focus on Walter, but she could feel the weight of competing agendas pressing in around her. Holloway had stopped giving orders and was now standing too still, too quiet. Vanessa Klein had entered the room and was whispering urgently with him in the corner. Their eyes kept darting to the medication chart displayed on the room's computer screen. Walter's vitals continued their slow climb back toward stability, but Monica's neck prickled with awareness. 20 years of experience told her what was coming. She'd seen this before, when mistakes happened to important patients, when powerful people needed problems to disappear. Ms. Reed. Holloway's voice was too controlled now, too careful. A word, please, in private. Monica finished recording Walter's latest readings, every number precise and time-stamped. Mrs. Price, please call immediately if anything changes. She met Evelyn's eyes again, saw the older woman's slight nod. She followed Holloway to the medication alcove, her steps measured and deliberate. The small room smelled of antiseptic and fear. Holloway closed the door behind them with a soft click that seemed to echo in Monica's chest. He turned to face her, his earlier panic now masked by a thin veneer of authority. We need to fix the chart now. Monica stood perfectly still, her face neutral, but her mind was already documenting every detail of this moment. The fluorescent light buzzing overhead, the tremor in Holloway's hands, the weight of the next decision pressing down like a physical force between them. In the medication alcove, harsh fluorescent light cast unflattering shadows across Dr. Holloway's face. Listen carefully, he said, lowering his voice. We need to document that Mr. Price became combative during treatment. Write that he required sedation and restraints for everyone's safety. Monica's spine stiffened. That never happened. It doesn't matter what happened. Holloway's words came faster now, tinged with desperation. What matters is protecting the hospital from liability. The Whitmores are major donors. If this turns into a scandal, Dr. Holloway, Monica cut in, her voice firm but professional, Mr. Price was never combative. He didn't need sedation or restraints. Documenting those would be falsifying a medical record. Don't be difficult about this. He ran a hand through his thinning hair. Sometimes we have to manage situations carefully. You understand that, right? I understand that falsifying records is illegal. The door opened, and Vanessa Klein slipped in, her designer heels clicking on the tile floor. Her presence seemed to fill the small space with cold authority. Is there a problem here? Vanessa asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. Ms. Klein, Holloway said. I was just explaining to Nurse Reed the importance of proper documentation for sensitive cases. Proper documentation? Monica's voice remained level. You're asking me to write lies in a patient's chart. Vanessa's perfectly made-up face showed no emotion. Monica, you've been with us for what, 15 years? You know how these delicate situations need to be handled. The Whitmore family has been incredibly generous to this hospital. This isn't about the Whitmores, Monica said. This is about patient safety and legal records. Through the alcove's window, she could see another nurse continuing Walter's treatment, according to the corrective steps Monica had already put in place. At least his care wasn't being compromised by this power play. Monica! Vanessa stepped closer, her voice dropping to a confidential murmur. You're a valuable member of our team. We appreciate your dedication. But sometimes, being a team player means seeing the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that Mr. Price could have died from a medication error, Monica said. And now you want me to cover it up. Nobody's asking you to cover anything up, Holloway interjected quickly. We're simply managing documentation to avoid unnecessary complications. A commotion erupted in the hallway. James Whitmore III's voice carried through the door. "This is completely unacceptable. Do you have any idea what this could do to our reputation?" Vanessa's expression hardened. "Monica, think very carefully about your next move. Jobs can disappear overnight. References can vanish. Careers can end. Are you threatening me? I'm being realistic. The hospital needs this situation resolved before morning. You can help make that happen, or—" She left the sentence hanging. Monica looked between them. Holloway with his nervous energy. Vanessa with her corporate coldness. This wasn't just about one wrong medication entry. This was about power and who could be sacrificed to protect it. "I will not falsify that chart," Monica said. Each word came out clear and distinct. "Don't be foolish," Holloway hissed. "Think about your position here." "I am thinking about my position. As a nurse, my duty is to my patients and the law." Vanessa's smile turned brittle. "The law is often open to interpretation, Monica. So is employment status. So is professional reputation. Are you really prepared to throw everything away over one chart entry? Are you really prepared to force me to commit a crime?" The shouting outside grew louder. James Whitmore III was demanding to speak to hospital administration, his privileged anger echoing down the corridor. "This is your last chance to be reasonable," Vanessa said softly. "Think about your future. Think about your family." Monica straightened her scrubs, her movements deliberate. "I have thought about them. I've thought about what I'd tell my son if I threw away 20 years of ethical nursing because someone powerful scared me into lying." "Nobody's asking you to lie," Holloway said quickly, "just to help us manage a sensitive situation. By writing that I sedated and restrained a patient when I didn't?" Monica shook her head. "That's the definition of lying. And it's illegal." "This isn't going to end well for you," Vanessa warned. "No," Monica agreed, "but it's going to end honest." She turned toward the door, her hand on the handle. Behind her, she heard Vanessa speaking quietly into her phone, but Monica didn't stop to listen. She stepped into the hallway, where James Whitmore III was red-faced and gesturing wildly at hospital staff. He spun toward her, recognition flashing in his eyes. "You!" he shouted. "You're the one who's causing all this trouble." Before Monica could step back, his manicured hand shot out and grabbed her arm, his fingers digging into her flesh through her scrub sleeve. The hallway fell silent as patients, families, and staff turned to stare at the unfolding scene. Monica yanked her arm free from James Whitmore III's grip, stepping backward. The fluorescent lights made everything stark and harsh, turning the hospital corridor into an impromptu stage. "Get your hands off me," Monica said firmly, rubbing her arm where his fingers had dug in. "Someone needs to control this nurse," Whitmore shouted, his face flushed with entitlement and rage. "She's completely out of line." From down the hall, Evelyn Price's voice cut through the tension. "Leave her alone. That nurse is trying to save my Walter's life." The older woman stood trembling in her cardigan, but her voice carried the strength of absolute moral certainty. "Security!" Monica called out, scanning the faces of staff members frozen in place. "I need security in the cardiac wing now." Two security guards appeared at the end of the hallway, but stopped short, looking uncertainly toward Vanessa Klein as she emerged from the medication alcove. "I want everyone to know," Monica announced clearly, making eye contact with the watching staff, "that I am being pressured to falsify medical records. Dr. Holloway and Ms. Klein want me to document false information about Mr. Price's care." "This is ridiculous!" Whitmore advanced again, pointing his finger in Monica's face. "You're incompetent. You're putting our family through hell. And you have the nerve to make accusations?" The younger nurse at the station, Sarah, watched with wide eyes, her hands frozen over a keyboard. Other staff members looked away, finding sudden interest in charts and floor tiles. Vanessa stepped forward, her heels clicking purposefully. Everyone, please remain calm. Monica, you're clearly upset and creating a disturbance. This behavior is completely inappropriate. Inappropriate? Monica's voice rose slightly. What's inappropriate is ordering me to write that I sedated and restrained a patient when I did nothing of the sort. See? Whitmore threw up his hands. She's hysterical. She's making wild accusations. Vanessa pulled out her phone. I'm calling the police. This situation needs to be contained. The police? Monica stared in disbelief. Because I won't break the law? But Vanessa was already speaking into her phone, her voice smooth and practiced. Yes, we have an unstable employee causing a disturbance in our cardiac unit. She's becoming aggressive and refusing to comply with hospital protocols. We need officers immediately. Monica looked around at her colleagues, people she'd worked beside for years. Most couldn't meet her eyes. Sarah, the younger nurse, half rose from her station as if to speak, but a sharp look from Vanessa made her sink back down. Within minutes, Officers Daniel Mercer and Paul Hensley strode onto the floor. Mercer took immediate control, his body language radiating authority and irritation before he'd even heard a word. "What's the situation?" he demanded, directing the question to Vanessa rather than Monica. "This nurse is disrupting patient care and making unfounded accusations," Vanessa said smoothly. "She's becoming increasingly volatile." "That's not true," Monica said. "I refused to falsify records after a medication error almost killed a patient. They're trying to cover it up." "Ma'am, lower your voice," Mercer ordered, stepping between Monica and Vanessa. "Officer, please listen," Monica tried again. "A patient was endangered. I'm being ordered to do something illegal." "I said lower your voice," Mercer cut her off. "Stop resisting." "I'm not resisting. I'm trying to explain." "She's been like this all night," Whitmore chimed in, completely out of control. Hensley hung back, watching uncomfortably, but saying nothing as his partner advanced on Monica. From Walter's room came the steady beep of monitoring equipment, the rhythm finally stabilizing thanks to Monica's earlier intervention. A nurse stepped out and gave a small nod, silent confirmation that the patient was improving. But that moment of hope vanished as Mercer grabbed Monica's arm. "Turn around and put your hands behind your back." "This is insane," Monica said, her voice steady despite everything. "I'm a charge nurse doing my job." "Stop resisting!" Mercer barked, though Monica hadn't moved. "I'm not resisting. I'm standing still and trying to explain." Mercer twisted her arms behind her back with unnecessary force. The cold metal of handcuffs bit into her wrists as he ratcheted them tight. "Monica Reed, you're under arrest for disorderly conduct and refusing to comply with officers' commands." Evelyn Price's voice rose above the chaos. "She saved Walter's life. You're arresting the only person who did the right thing." The older woman pushed forward despite her age, righteous anger giving her strength. That nurse figured out something was wrong and fixed it, while everyone else was running around trying to cover their behinds. But Mercer wasn't listening. He held Monica's cuffed arms with one hand while reaching for his radio with the other. "Dispatch, we have one in custody," he said with satisfaction. "Clearing the scene now." Monica stood straight, dignity intact even in handcuffs, while her colleagues watched her arrest in the same hallway where she'd spent 15 years saving lives. Through the harsh fluorescent lighting, Monica walked with her head high, though her heart hammered against her ribs. The handcuffs bit into her wrists as Officer Mercer marched her down the corridor she'd paced thousands of times before. "Keep moving," Mercer ordered, shoving her forward slightly. "And stop dragging your feet." "I'm walking normally," Monica replied, her voice steady despite the humiliation burning in her chest. She caught glimpses of familiar faces, nurses she'd mentored, doctors she'd worked alongside, even patients she'd cared for, all watching her public shame. Some turned away quickly. Others stared openly. A patient in a wheelchair pressed himself against the wall as they passed, eyes wide with confusion at seeing a nurse in scrubs being led away in handcuffs. "I said move faster," Mercer snapped, though Monica hadn't slowed. Officer Hensley trailed behind them, his footsteps echoing in the unnaturally quiet hallway. When Monica glanced back, he studied the floor tiles, refusing to meet her gaze. As they passed the nurse's station on the second floor, Monica noticed Sarah, the younger nurse, deliberately tilting her head toward the ceiling corner. Following her subtle gesture, Monica spotted the dark dome of a security camera. Her heart lifted slightly. There would be footage of everything that had happened. "Eyes forward," Mercer barked, jerking her arm. They reached the elevator bank, where a group of visitors pressed themselves against the wall. An elderly man clutched his wife's hand, both of them staring at Monica's handcuffs with undisguised shock. "Nothing to see here, folks," Mercer announced with authority. "Just handling an unruly employee situation." Monica's face burned, but she held her head high. "I refuse to falsify medical records," she stated clearly, making sure the visitors heard her. "That's why I'm in handcuffs." "That's enough out of you," Mercer growled, tightening his grip. The elevator ride felt endless. Monica stood between the two officers, breathing in the smell of industrial cleaner and feeling the weight of every second. Her scrubs, which had always been a source of pride, now felt like a mark of shame. Through the lobby, past the security desk where she'd checked in countless times, past the gift shop where she bought coffee on breaks, past the wall of employee recognition photos where her own smile had been displayed just hours ago. The automatic doors whooshed open, and the night air hit her face. Monica shivered. They hadn't let her get her coat. The parking lot was dark except for pools of yellow light from tall lamps, and a light drizzle had started to fall. Mercer opened the patrol car's back door. "Watch your head," he said, not kindly, as he pushed her down into the seat. The inside of the police car smelled like stale coffee and wet leather. Monica focused on her breathing, remembering the meditation techniques she taught anxious patients. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Stay calm. Stay clear. The drive to the station passed in a blur of streetlights and early morning silence. Monica ran through the facts in her head. Dr. Holloway's wrong dosage order. Walter Price's decline. The illegal demand to falsify records. The donor's son grabbing her arm. There were witnesses. There was camera footage. The truth would come out. At the station, harsh overhead lights made everyone look sickly. They took her fingerprints, photographed her, confiscated her ID badge, and the contents of her scrub pockets. "Booking you for disorderly conduct and interfering with emergency operations," the processing officer said, sounding bored. "I'm a charge nurse with 15 years' experience," Monica replied evenly. "I refused an illegal order to falsify medical records after a medication error. That's why I'm here." The desk sergeant, an older man with graying temples, looked up from his paperwork. "This started over charting?" "Yes, sir. They wanted me to write that we sedated and restrained a cardiac patient when we didn't. It would have covered up a serious medication error." The sergeant frowned slightly, glancing at Mercer. "She was causing a disturbance," Mercer said quickly. "The hospital administration called us in." "I see," the sergeant said, but something in his tone suggested he wasn't entirely convinced. They put Monica in a holding cell with harsh metal benches and graffiti-scratched walls. She sat straight-backed, refusing to slump despite her exhaustion. The facts would clear her. The security footage would show everything. Walter Price was stabilizing when she left. Her intervention had worked. Once reasonable people reviewed what happened, this nightmare would end. Through the cell bars, she could see a wall clock ticking toward dawn. Her son would be waking up soon, checking his phone, wondering why she hadn't texted after her shift. Her mother would be making coffee, unaware her daughter was sitting in a jail cell. Monica heard Mercer's voice drift from around the corner, followed by the sound of him answering his phone. "Yeah, that's right," he was saying. "No, we've got her booked." "Yeah, we can add that." "Okay, good. The hospital administration is sending over the full statement now?" Monica's back stiffened. What statement? What was the hospital planning to say about her? The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as she waited, each minute stretching longer than the last, while somewhere in the pre-dawn darkness, people with power were crafting their version of the truth. The station doors opened with a metallic clang. Monica stepped into the gray morning light, her scrubs wrinkled and her wrists aching from the handcuffs. A familiar blue Honda idled at the curb, Avery behind the wheel, his face tight with worry. Monica slid into the passenger seat, the familiar scent of her son's car air freshener hitting her nose. For a moment, neither spoke. Avery's hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. "Mom?" he started, his voice cracking slightly. "I'm okay," Monica said, though she wasn't. "Just drive for a minute, please." They pulled away from the police station, the morning traffic still light. Monica watched the building shrink in the side mirror, trying to process how her entire life had derailed in a single shift. "They didn't let me bring you a change of clothes," Avery said, glancing at her scrubs. "I tried, but they said you were being processed." "It's fine." Monica straightened in her seat. "But I need to tell you exactly what happened before anything else gets twisted around." At a red light, Avery turned to face her. At 20, he already had the focused intensity of the lawyer he was studying to become. "I'm listening." Monica told him everything. The medication error, Dr. Holloway's illegal demand, Vanessa's threats, the donor's son grabbing her, Officer Mercer's arrival, the handcuffs. Her voice remained steady, but her hands shook slightly as she described being marched through her own hospital. "There were witnesses," she finished, "and cameras. The truth will come out." "We need coffee," Avery decided, pulling into a drive-thru. "And you need to eat something." While they waited in line, Avery's phone buzzed. His jaw tightened as he read the screen. "What is it?" Monica asked. He hesitated, then held up the phone. A local news alert showed her employee ID photo with the headline, "Nurse Arrested After Hospital Disruption." Monica's stomach clenched. The photo was cropped to make her look stern, almost angry. The caption mentioned interfering with emergency care, but nothing about refusing illegal orders. "They're already controlling the story," she said quietly. They parked in the lot to drink their coffee. Monica's hands were still trembling too much to risk driving. The sun was fully up now, turning the morning golden, as if it were just another day. "Let's get you home," Avery said. "You need a shower and real clothes before we figure out next steps." At home, Monica's mother had left 3 worried voicemails. Monica texted back quickly, "Yes, I'm safe. Home now. We'll explain everything soon," before heading to the shower. The hot water couldn't wash away the memory of handcuffs or the stares of her co-workers, but it helped clear her head. She dried her hair, put on fresh clothes, and walked out to find Avery at the kitchen table with his laptop. His expression told her there was more bad news. "They suspended you," he said, turning the screen toward her. "Effective immediately." Monica read the hospital's statement, each word hitting like a physical blow. It described her as endangering patient care and acting aggressively toward staff. The statement mentioned their zero-tolerance policy for workplace disruption, but nothing about the illegal order she'd refused. "There's more," Avery said grimly. "Check your email." Monica's phone showed 3 new messages. The first was an official notice about an incident report filed against her for refusing physician orders and creating an unsafe environment. The second was from the nursing board about a complaint review. The third made her sink into a chair. A co-worker she trusted had texted, "Security says hallway camera footage from last night isn't available." Something about system maintenance. Be careful. They're erasing evidence, Avery said, his pre-law training kicking in. We need to document everything now, before more disappears. Monica's phone buzzed again. This time it was Sarah, the younger nurse who had pointed out the camera. The message was brief, but devastating. I'm so sorry. They made me sign a statement. Said they'd fire me if I didn't. I was scared. Monica set the phone down carefully. They're not just erasing evidence, they're creating false witnesses. We need a lawyer, Avery said. Not just any lawyer, someone who fights these kinds of battles. Sister Jenkins at church, Monica said. Her daughter's friend is a civil rights attorney. Let me call her. Within an hour, Naomi Bell arrived at Monica's kitchen table. She was in her late 50s, elegantly dressed despite the early hour, with the steady gaze of someone who had seen institutions destroy lives before. Monica and Avery laid out everything. The illegal order, the arrest, the disappearing footage, the false statement, the news story, all of it. Naomi took notes in precise handwriting, asking occasional sharp questions about exact words used and who was present when. Finally, she set down her pen and looked directly at Monica. Mrs. Reed, she said, what happened to you wasn't a misunderstanding or an overreaction. This is the opening move in a much bigger war. Naomi Bell spread the documents across Monica's kitchen table like a general mapping out a battlefield. The morning sun cast harsh light on the arrest report, suspension notice, and printed screenshots of the hospital's statement. They're following a playbook, Naomi said, tapping each paper in turn. First, they isolate someone who won't stay quiet about wrongdoing. Then, they build a paper trail of false complaints. Finally, they count on everyone else being too scared to speak up. Monica touched her still tender wrists where the handcuffs had been. They picked the wrong person to intimidate. Yes, they did, Naomi agreed, but we have to be strategic. No direct contact with hospital staff right now. That'll just give them ammunition. No social media posts, no matter how angry you are. And absolutely no statements to the press without running them by me first. Avery had his laptop open, already creating folders. What should we focus on first? Timeline, Naomi said firmly. Monica, I need you to write down everything that happened minute by minute while it's fresh. Start from when Walter Price first showed signs of decline. Include every conversation, every person present, every detail you can remember. Monica nodded and began writing. The events unspooled in her memory with the precise clarity that came from years of medical charting. Walter's dropping oxygen levels at 11:42 p.m., the medication discrepancy she'd spotted at 11:47, Dr. Holloway's panicked arrival at 11:53. She documented each moment leading to that confrontation in the medication alcove, then the chaos that followed. Avery worked methodically at his own task. I'm saving screenshots of everything the hospital posted, plus comments from staff and patients who were there. Some are already being deleted. Good, Naomi said. We'll need those. She made a series of rapid phone calls, her tone shifting from professional to steel-edged as needed. To the police station, a formal request to preserve all booking records and officer body camera footage. To the hospital's legal department, notice of pending litigation and demands to secure all security recordings. To Walter Price's family attorney, a request for witness statements while memories were fresh. Around 3 o'clock, Monica's phone rang. It was Evelyn Price. Monica? Evelyn's voice was firm despite her exhaustion. I've been trying to reach you all morning. Walter is stable. Thanks to you catching that medication error when you did. These people trying to paint you as dangerous? I was there. I saw everything. You saved my husband's life. Monica's eyes filled with tears. Mrs. Price, thank you. How is Walter doing? Getting stronger by the hour? No thanks to that doctor or that awful young man who grabbed you. I told the hospital board exactly what I saw. They tried to brush me off, but I'm not some scared employee they can bully. I'm a witness, and I'm happy to testify to what really happened. After the call, Monica felt steadier. Naomi looked pleased. Evelyn Price is exactly the kind of witness we need. Respected, articulate, and morally outraged. Juries listen to people like her. They worked through the afternoon. Monica's mother called twice more, increasingly worried about news coverage. Avery fielded calls from concerned church members while Monica kept writing, filling pages with detailed notes about the donor's son's aggression and Officer Mercer's refusal to listen. By early evening, the adrenaline began wearing off. Monica stared at her mounting stack of bills on the counter. Mortgage, utilities, her mother's medications, Avery's tuition payment coming due. The suspension is unpaid, she said quietly. How long before we can challenge it? We'll file for emergency injunctive relief, Naomi replied. But you should know. These fights can take months. Do you have savings? Family who can help? Monica thought of her widow's pension, stretched thin already. Some, not enough for a long battle. We'll figure it out, Avery said firmly. Maybe I can pick up extra work between classes. No, Monica said. You focus on school. I'll find a way. Naomi made notes on her legal pad. First priority is protecting your nursing license. The hospital will try to attack that next. We need to get ahead of any complaints they file. The room grew darker as evening settled in. Monica's kitchen, usually filled with the sounds of cooking and conversation, felt heavy with the weight of papers, documenting how quickly a life could unravel. At 8:47 p.m., Naomi's phone buzzed. She read the message, her expression hardening. That was my contact in the hospital's legal department, she said. They're planning to file a formal complaint with the state nursing board first thing tomorrow morning. They're going to claim you endangered a patient by refusing care orders. Monica pressed her hands flat against the table to stop them from shaking. Everything she'd worked for, her license, her reputation, her ability to care for patients, was under attack. But she straightened her shoulders, remembering Evelyn's words about saving Walter's life. They want me to regret refusing that illegal order, she said. But I'd do it again. A good nurse protects her patients, no matter what it costs. Naomi nodded approvingly. That's exactly what we'll tell the nursing board. Now, let's prepare our response before they can file that complaint. Monica's phone chirped at 6:47 a.m. She hadn't really slept, just dozed fitfully between waves of anxiety. The email notification made her stomach clench. Notice of Professional Conduct Review. State Board of Nursing. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The formal language felt like ice water. Following reports of concerning behavior. Questions regarding professional judgment. Potential endangerment of patient care. They had beaten them to the nursing board, just as Naomi warned. Mom? Avery appeared in her doorway, already dressed for their meeting at Naomi's office. I made coffee. Monica nodded, unable to speak past the tightness in her throat. 23 years of nursing excellence, hundreds of lives touched, countless nights spent helping others heal. All of it now painted as suspicious by people who valued money over medicine. In Avery's car, Monica's phone kept buzzing with news alerts. Her mugshot had spread to local news sites, comment sections filling with speculation about what kind of nurse gets arrested on duty. Unstable, aggressive, threatening. Each word felt like another brick in the wall they were building around her reputation. Don't read those, Avery said, reaching over to lower her phone. We're almost at Naomi's office. They're making me sound crazy, Monica said, like I just snapped and started causing problems. Nobody's mentioning the illegal order or Walter nearly dying. That's why we're fighting back, Avery replied, his voice steady like his father's used to be. Truth matters more than their story. Naomi's office buzzed with focused energy when they arrived. She had already drafted preservation demands for security footage, internal emails, and dispatch recordings. Her paralegal was researching similar cases where hospitals tried to silence staff who reported safety issues. They're following the standard playbook, Naomi explained, spreading documents across her conference room table. First discredit, then isolate, then overwhelm with institutional pressure until the target gives up and goes away quietly. I'm not going anywhere quietly, Monica said. Good. Because they're already coordinating their story. Naomi held up Officer Mercer's police report. Look at this language about your escalating non-compliance and interference with medical protocols. It's almost word for word what Vanessa Klein told dispatch. They got their stories straight before they even called the police. Monica's phone buzzed again. A text from Sarah, a respiratory therapist she'd worked with for years. They told us this morning not to contact you. Everything has to go through admin now. I'm so sorry. Minutes later, another message from a different co-worker. They took down your photo from the recognition wall, like they're trying to erase you were ever here. It's not right. Document everything, Naomi instructed, seeing Monica's expression. Every contact, every deleted photo, every attempt to isolate you. It shows consciousness of guilt on their part. They spent hours working through their response to the nursing board. Naomi insisted on precise, professional language that highlighted Monica's spotless record and ethical obligation to refuse illegal orders. They attached witness statements from patients' families who remembered Monica's care, though many current staff were too afraid to speak yet. The nursing board review could take months, Naomi warned. Meanwhile, they'll keep pressing. More complaints might appear. Old incidents could suddenly become issues. They have lawyers and PR teams whose whole job is making problems go away. By destroying the person who exposed the problem, Monica said bitterly. Exactly. But here's what they don't expect. We're going to hit back harder. Civil rights violation, wrongful arrest, witness intimidation, conspiracy to cover up patient endangerment. By the time we're done, they'll wish they'd just admitted the mistake and apologized. Around 4 o'clock, they finished the initial nursing board response. Monica felt drained, but focused. The fear was still there, but anger had begun burning hotter, not just for herself, but for others who might face similar pressure to compromise their ethics. Driving home, Avery took the long way to avoid passing the hospital. Monica appreciated the gesture but said, I'm not hiding from them. Take the regular route tomorrow. They were barely home when Monica's doorbell rang. Evelyn Price stood on the porch, looking determined despite her obvious fatigue. I know I should have called first, she said. But Walter insisted. He's being discharged tomorrow and he wants to thank you himself before they try to twist everything around. That young man who grabbed you? His father is already pushing the hospital board to handle this situation discreetly. Well, Walter and I aren't staying quiet about what really happened. Monica felt tears threatening again, but these were different from the morning's despair. Here was proof that truth could outlast lies, that doing right mattered more than doing what was easy. Please, come in, Mrs. Price, Monica said. Would you like some tea? Evelyn Price settled into Monica's worn armchair, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The living room felt crowded with Naomi and Avery leaning forward on the couch, everyone focused on catching every detail. I want to be crystal clear about what I saw, Evelyn said. Her voice carried the steady certainty of someone who had spent a lifetime speaking uncomfortable truths. That young man, the donor's son, he grabbed Monica first. She never threatened anyone. She was trying to protect my Walter. Monica poured tea with slightly shaking hands while Evelyn continued. Dr. Holloway was practically sweating through his coat. I heard him tell Monica to just write it up how I say. She refused. Said something about not falsifying records. He kept getting more worked up, but Monica stayed professional. Naomi took careful notes, her pen scratching against her legal pad. Did you hear specific mentions of restraints or sedation in their conversation? Yes, Evelyn nodded firmly. Dr. Holloway wanted her to write that Walter needed restraints. But my husband wasn't violent. He was scared and sick. Monica was the only one actually helping him. And the police response? Naomi prompted. What stood out to you about that? That officer, Mercer. He came in ready for trouble. Ignored me completely when I tried to explain. Just kept talking over Monica, getting louder while she tried to explain about the records. Evelyn's hands tightened. I've seen that kind of thing before. Some people in uniform decide who's guilty before hearing a word. The next morning, Naomi conducted a formal recorded interview with Evelyn in her office. Every detail mattered. Timestamps, exact phrases, who stood where during the confrontation. Evelyn's clear memory and moral outrage made her an ideal witness. While Naomi worked with Evelyn, Avery dove into public records. His pre-law training helped him spot patterns in complaint filings and police reports. Mom, look at this, he said when Monica brought him lunch. He turned his laptop to show a spreadsheet. Officer Mercer has 8 excessive force complaints in 3 years. 5 involved black professionals, a teacher, an accountant, 2 nurses, and a social worker. Every report uses the same language: aggressive demeanor, non-compliant with instructions, escalating behavior. Monica leaned closer, seeing her own experience reflected in other cases. They make it sound like we're the dangerous ones, just for standing our ground professionally. Exactly, Avery said. And here's something else. Remember that respiratory therapist who quit suddenly last year? Marcus Johnson? He filed a workplace complaint right before leaving. It's heavily redacted, but mentions pressure to modify documentation and ethical concerns about record accuracy. Naomi returned from the Evelyn interview energized. We're building a pattern, she said, spreading files across her desk. This isn't just about one night or one cover-up. The hospital has a system for handling problems that might embarrass donors or expose liability. Monica nodded slowly. I always wondered why certain incidents never made it into official reports. Things involving wealthy patients or their families just disappeared. They spent the afternoon reconstructing electronic trails. Monica identified which administrative logins could alter charts after the fact. She explained how timestamp patterns could reveal unauthorized changes. Her technical knowledge of hospital systems, combined with Naomi's legal experience, began exposing the machinery of institutional cover-ups. Look here. Monica pointed to a screen showing access logs. These entries after midnight, that's not normal nursing staff. That's someone with override privileges rushing to clean things up. The work felt different now. Monica wasn't just defending herself anymore. She was helping expose something bigger. Each document they reviewed, each pattern they uncovered, added to a picture of systematic abuse of power. They count on people being too scared or too isolated to fight back, Naomi said, watching Monica analyze another set of records. But you're not alone, and you're not staying quiet. No, Monica agreed. Not when staying quiet means it keeps happening to others. By evening, they had mapped out a timeline of suspicious chart access, identified key witnesses beyond Evelyn, and documented multiple instances where similar pressure tactics had been used against staff who raised concerns. Monica was exhausted but clear-headed when she finally headed home. The weight of professional disgrace had shifted, replaced by something stronger: determination to expose the truth, not just for herself, but for others who had been silenced. Just before midnight, her phone lit up with Naomi's number. "Monica!" Naomi's voice crackled with urgency. I just got a call from someone in hospital IT. He says the hallway footage we were told was gone. It might still be sitting on their backup server. They didn't wipe everything. Monica arrived at Naomi's office before sunrise, dark circles under her eyes betraying her restless night. Avery carried 2 cups of strong coffee, handing one to his mother as they settled into the chairs facing Naomi's desk. The IT contractor is taking a huge risk even telling us about this, Naomi said, already typing rapidly on her computer. We need to move fast before someone realizes the backup exists and accidentally wipes it. Monica leaned forward, pushing aside her exhaustion. What exactly do you need from me? Every detail about timing. Which cameras would have caught what? Naomi pulled out a hospital floor plan. We need to be surgical in our preservation demands. Too broad, and they'll claim we're fishing. Too narrow, and we might miss crucial angles. Avery took out his laptop, ready to document everything. Monica closed her eyes, reconstructing that night's geography. The main incident started in the medication room off the cardiac wing, she said, pointing. Camera 4B covers that doorway. You'll see Dr. Holloway pull me aside around 11:40 p.m. Then the donor's son started causing problems near Walter's room. That's camera 3A's range. Time window for the grab? Naomi asked, marking locations. Between 12:10 and 12:15 a.m. Camera 3A and the secondary hall camera would show him grabbing my arm. The arrest happened under camera 2B, near the nurse's station, probably around 12:30. Naomi nodded, drafting emergency motions while Monica spoke. We're demanding they preserve everything from 11:00 p.m. to 1:00 a.m., all cameras in the cardiac wing. I'm citing federal evidence rules and putting them on notice for spoliation if anything disappears. At 9 a.m. sharp, Naomi fired off the preservation demands to the hospital's legal department, IT division, and risk management. She copied state regulators and the police department's internal affairs division, raising the stakes for anyone thinking of losing more evidence. Monica's phone buzzed. A text from a nurse who'd quit months ago. Check your email. Sending something you need to see. The forwarded emails made Monica's hands shake. 3 separate messages from Vanessa Klein to department managers, spanning the past year. Reminder: incidents involving donor family members require verbal report only. No written documentation without executive approval. This is their playbook, Naomi said, scanning the emails. They've been burying donor problems for years. Your refusal threatened their whole system. By 11 a.m., the hospital's lawyers were pushing back, claiming technical difficulties accessing archived footage. Naomi responded with threats of immediate court intervention. They're stalling, she told Monica. But they know destroying evidence now would be worse than whatever the footage shows. Around noon, Evelyn called. Walter wants to help, she said. He's still weak, but he's clear-headed. He remembers you catching the medication error. He'll testify that you saved his life. Monica pressed her hand against her mouth, fighting tears. Walter's testimony would give her case something the hospital couldn't easily dismiss. A living witness to their negligence and her competence. The public angle matters, Naomi explained. A grateful patient speaking up makes it harder for them to paint you as dangerous or unstable. They worked through lunch, Avery coordinating with Naomi's paralegals to document every communication. At 2 p.m., the IT contractor called through a secure line. I found it, he said nervously. Multiple camera angles, full audio, on some feeds. But they'll challenge chain of custody since the primary system marked it as deleted. Let them, Naomi said. We'll authenticate through timestamps and metadata. Just confirm. What do you see in the footage? Everything she described. The doctor pulling her aside, the donor's son grabbing her, the arrest, and audio of her explicitly refusing to falsify records. Monica sank back in her chair, tension draining from her shoulders. For the first time since the handcuffs clicked around her wrists, she felt the ground steadying beneath her. By late afternoon, Naomi had secured a backup of the footage through court channels. The hospital's lawyers suddenly seemed more interested in exploring resolution options. "Don't celebrate yet," Naomi warned. "But this changes the game. They can't just call you a liar anymore." Driving home at sunset, Monica allowed herself to imagine walking back into a hospital with her head high. Her name cleared. Not just surviving, but proving she'd been right all along. Her phone lit up with a text from Naomi, just as she pulled into her driveway. The message was simple, but made her hands tremble. "We recovered video, and it helps you." Monica's hands trembled on her doorknob. Naomi's text message burning in her mind. Avery appeared beside her, car keys already in hand. "I'm driving you," he said firmly. "You're too shaken up." "It's late, honey. You don't have to." "Mom." His voice carried the same quiet determination she'd taught him. "You haven't let me help enough." "I'm driving." The city streets were nearly empty as they made their way to Naomi's office. Traffic lights cast alternating red and green glows across their faces. Monica kept checking her phone, reading and rereading that single line. "We recovered video, and it helps you." Naomi was waiting at her office door, still in her work clothes despite the late hour. She ushered them into the conference room where a laptop was already set up. "I wanted you to see this immediately," Naomi said, closing the door. "The timestamp matches exactly when you said everything happened." The video footage began playing. The quality wasn't perfect. Hospital security cameras never were. But it was clear enough. Monica watched herself at the nurse's station, checking Walter's chart. Dr. Holloway appeared, agitated, pulling her toward the medication room. Though that conversation was out of audio range, their body language told the story. Then came the corridor scene. The donor's son stormed into frame, gesturing wildly. Monica flinched, watching him grab her arm on screen. The audio crackled to life, catching her voice clearly. "I will not falsify a patient chart. This is illegal." Tears welled in Monica's eyes. There it was, proof she'd said exactly what she claimed. Officer Mercer entered the frame already reaching for his handcuffs, his aggressive stance obvious. The camera caught him talking over Monica's attempts to explain, his finger jabbing toward her face. "Look at his body language," Naomi said, pausing the video. "He came in ready to arrest somebody. This matches perfectly with what Evelyn described." Monica pressed her hands against her mouth, shoulders shaking. Avery wrapped an arm around her. "It's okay, Mom," he whispered. "They can't call you a liar anymore." The next morning brought a surge of momentum. A local reporter called Naomi's office asking about discrepancies between the hospital's statement and witness accounts. The reporter seemed particularly interested in the timing of Monica's suspension versus when the hospital actually reviewed evidence. By midday, members of Monica's church had organized a prayer circle and support campaign. Her phone filled with messages from people she'd cared for over the years, former patients vouching for her character. "The community remembers who you are," Avery said, as they read through the messages. "They know this isn't you." Around 2 o'clock, Naomi called with news. The hospital wanted to discuss settlement terms. Their lawyer proposed a confidential agreement, money in exchange for Monica's silence and resignation. "They're offering enough to cover your lost wages and legal fees," Naomi explained. "But they want a full gag order. No admitting wrongdoing, no public accountability." Monica sat with that for a moment, thinking of her bills, her mother's worried face, her son's education costs. The money would solve immediate problems. But the thought of Vanessa walking free, of Dr. Holloway continuing to pressure other nurses, of Officer Mercer keeping his badge, it made her stomach turn. "No," Monica said firmly. "I won't let them buy my silence. This isn't just about me anymore." "I had a feeling you'd say that," Naomi replied, and Monica could hear the smile in her voice. "I'll tell them we're proceeding with the full case." That evening, Monica attended church for the first time since the arrest. Instead of pitying looks or awkward avoidance, she found herself surrounded by supportive faces. Elder Williams hugged her tight and said, "We're proud of you for standing your ground." Walking into her house that night, Monica felt lighter than she had in days. The video evidence, the community support, the hospital's attempted settlement, it all pointed to the truth finally breaking through. "You seem different," Avery observed, as they sat down for a late dinner. "I think I finally believe we can win this," Monica admitted. "Not just clear my name, but make sure they can't do this to anyone else." She allowed herself to imagine returning to nursing, perhaps even teaching ethics to new healthcare workers. The weight of shame and doubt had lifted, replaced by cautious hope. Later, lying in bed, Monica thought about all the small kindnesses that had carried her this far. Evelyn's fierce advocacy, her son's steady presence, her church family's prayers, even the IT contractor's courage in finding the footage. For the first time since the handcuffs closed around her wrists, Monica fell asleep easily, believing justice was within reach. Her phone rang before breakfast the next morning. Naomi's name flashed on the screen. "Monica," Naomi said, her voice tight. "The defense just filed surprise evidence and moved to limit the video's use in court. I need you to come in right away." Monica gripped her coffee cup tightly as she and Naomi climbed the courthouse steps. The morning sun cast long shadows across the granite, and a few early reporters already lurked near the entrance with cameras ready. "They'll try to rattle us," Naomi warned, holding the heavy door. "But the video speaks for itself. Stay focused." Inside the hearing room, Monica's stomach clenched at the sight of the younger nurse, Sarah Martinez, sitting with the defense team. During the arrest, Sarah had looked horrified. Now she avoided Monica's eyes completely. The hospital's lawyers arrived with thick binders and confident smirks. Lead counsel Richard Davidson immediately approached the bench with an urgent motion. "Your Honor, we have serious concerns about the authenticity and admissibility of the supposed security footage," Davidson announced. "The backup copy lacks proper verification. We can't establish an unbroken chain of custody." Naomi rose quickly. "The footage clearly shows the events exactly as our client described. The timestamp matches, which could easily be altered," Davidson cut in. "Furthermore, the hospital's primary security system shows no record of this copy existing. We move to exclude any portions lacking independent authentication." The judge frowned, reviewing documents. "Mrs. Bell, can you definitively prove this copy's origin? The IT contractor who recovered it is no longer employed by the hospital and admits accessing systems after hours," Davidson added. "This could be edited or composite footage." Monica watched in growing horror as the judge nodded along with Davidson's arguments. Within minutes, he ruled to restrict key portions of the video, including the crucial audio of Monica refusing to falsify records. But worse was coming. Sarah Martinez took the stand, her hands twisting in her lap. Davidson led her through carefully prepared testimony. "Ms. Martinez, what did you observe that night regarding Ms. Reed's behavior?" Sarah swallowed hard. She was agitated. "After Dr. Holloway spoke to her, she suggested we could adjust the chart to avoid problems." Monica felt like she'd been punched. The lie was so complete, so opposite to reality, that for a moment she couldn't breathe. Naomi's hand squeezed her arm in warning to stay quiet. "And did Ms. Reed indicate why she wanted to alter the records?" Davidson pressed. "She said—" Sarah's voice quavered. "She said sometimes we had to protect ourselves, even if it meant backdating entries." Monica stared at Sarah's downturned face, recognizing the fear behind the lies, but feeling gutted by the betrayal. This was someone she'd mentored, someone she'd trusted. Naomi's cross-examination exposed inconsistencies, but the damage was done. Sarah's testimony had transformed Monica from whistleblower to instigator. Then came the final blow. Davidson produced a manila folder with flourish. "Your Honor, we've located a prior disciplinary memo regarding Ms. Reed's conduct from 6 months ago." He handed copies to the judge and Naomi. "It documents concerns about her confrontational attitude toward hospital policies." Monica's mouth went dry. She had never received any disciplinary memo. But as the document circulated, she watched faces change. The slight shift from neutral to suspicious, the seed of doubt taking root. Naomi attacked the memo's late discovery and questionable provenance, but the poison was already spreading. By lunch break, reporters who'd been sympathetic that morning now used words like conflicting accounts and disputed claims. The afternoon brought worse news via email. The state nursing board had suspended Monica's license pending a full investigation of the hospital's complaints. The notification cited serious concerns about professional judgment and documentation practices. Monica sat in Naomi's office, reading the suspension letter over and over. Everything she'd built over decades of nursing was crumbling. Her reputation, her career, her ability to support her family, all hanging by increasingly frayed threads. "We can fight this," Naomi insisted, but her voice held less certainty than before. "The memo's timing is suspicious. Sarah's testimony contradicts known facts. We just need—" Monica's phone buzzed. Avery texting that news vans were outside their house again. Before she could reply, another message arrived. Her mother had tried to confront the reporters and collapsed on the front lawn. "I have to go," Monica gasped, already grabbing her purse. "Mom's down. They're calling an ambulance." She barely remembered the drive home. The street was clogged with emergency vehicles, lights flashing. Neighbors stood in clusters, watching as paramedics lifted her mother onto a stretcher. Avery ran to meet her. "She was upset about the cameras," he explained, voice shaking. "She wanted to tell them they were wrong about you. Then she just fell." Monica climbed into the ambulance beside her mother's unconscious form. The siren wailed as they pulled away, but all she could hear was her own voice repeating, "I did this. My fight did this." She held her mother's limp hand, feeling the faint pulse beneath paper-thin skin. The monitor beeped steadily, but Monica's world was collapsing in silence. She had believed truth would protect them all. Instead, the system was crushing everyone she loved. Monica slumped in the vinyl hospital chair, her scrubs from yesterday still wrinkled from the long night. The waiting area's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across her exhausted face. Next to her, Avery clutched a half-empty coffee cup, his law textbooks forgotten in his backpack. "Mom's going to be okay," he said quietly. "The doctor said it wasn't a stroke." Monica pressed her fingers against her eyes. "But she's here because of me. Because I couldn't just stay quiet and keep my head down." "That's not who you are," Avery countered. "And it's not what you taught me to be. I taught you to be smart, not stubborn." Monica's voice cracked. "Look what fighting got us. Your grandmother in a hospital bed, my career in ruins, reporters camping outside our house. Maybe I was wrong to think one person could stand up to all this." She pulled out her phone, scrolling through missed calls from Naomi. Her finger hovered over the number. "What are you doing?" Avery asked. "Thinking maybe we should take whatever deal they'll still give us. Move somewhere else. Start over." Monica's shoulders sagged. "Before anyone else gets hurt." Avery straightened. "Mom, no. You can't." But Monica was already dialing. Naomi answered on the first ring. "I want to discuss settlement options," Monica said, before Naomi could speak. "Whatever they'll offer now. I can't keep watching my family suffer." "Listen to me very carefully." Naomi's voice was steel through the speaker. They hit this hard because they're terrified. People who aren't afraid don't fabricate evidence and pressure witnesses. They're winning, Monica whispered. They're desperate. And I don't let my clients surrender when they're right. Monica closed her eyes. My mother's in the hospital, which is exactly why you can't let them win. Naomi paused. Stay where you are. I'm sending someone to talk sense into you. Before Monica could argue, Naomi hung up. She stared at the silent phone, feeling hollow. The waiting room television droned quietly in the background, local news showing footage of the courthouse. Monica watched her own image hurrying past cameras, looking hunted. The caption read, Hospital dispute continues. Dispute, she muttered, like it's just a difference of opinion, whether they tried to make me break the law. Around midnight, footsteps echoed in the quiet hallway. Evelyn Price appeared, carrying a cardboard tray with 3 large coffee cups. Don't you dare give up, she announced without preamble, handing out the coffee. Walter's alive because you refused to back down that night. I won't let you back down now. Monica accepted the cup mechanically. Mrs. Price, I appreciate... Don't Mrs. Price me. I'm Evelyn, and I'm here because I watched you do the right thing once already. She settled into a chair, her voice softening. I know what it looks like when powerful people close ranks. They count on decent people breaking before the finish line. They're hurting my family, Monica said, because they know it's the only way to hurt you. Evelyn leaned forward. You think running away protects anyone? It just teaches them they can do this again. To the next nurse, the next patient, the next family. Monica stared into her coffee, the steam fogging her vision. Or maybe those were tears. I was so sure the truth would be enough, she whispered. Truth is enough when good people stand by it, Evelyn said firmly. That's why they work so hard to make us doubt ourselves, to make us quit early. Avery touched his mother's arm. She's right, Mom. Remember what you told me when I wanted to quit pre-law because it was too hard? You said anything worth doing was going to have moments that tested us. Monica's throat tightened. She did remember that conversation. Avery, overwhelmed by his first semester, ready to change majors. She'd told him that courage wasn't about never being afraid, but about continuing anyway. I'm tired, she admitted. I'm so tired of being afraid. Then let's be tired together, Evelyn said, but not beaten. The hours crept toward dawn. Monica dozed fitfully, while Avery reviewed case notes on his laptop. Evelyn stayed, her presence steady as a lighthouse. As the first pale light began filtering through the windows, Avery suddenly sat up straighter. Mom? He was frowning at his screen. Can I see that disciplinary memo again? Monica dug through her purse for the crumpled copy. Why? Something's bothering me about it. He spread the paper on his knee, comparing it to something on his laptop. The formatting looks weird. Weird how? I don't know exactly. He squinted at the header, the margins, the font. Just different from the other hospital documents we have from 6 months ago. Like it's... His voice trailed off as he clicked through more files. The rising sun caught the edge of the paper, illuminating the crisp letterhead and precise spacing. Avery's fingers traced the margin measurements, his expression changing from confusion to sudden, sharp focus. Mom, he said slowly, I need to show this to Naomi. Right now. Dawn light streamed through the hospital waiting room windows as Avery spread printouts across a small table. His hands shook slightly from exhaustion and caffeine, but his eyes were sharp. Look at this, he said, pointing to the hospital's disciplinary memo. The letterhead format, the font, even the spacing, it's different from older documents. Monica leaned closer, squinting at the papers. After so many sleepless hours, the text blurred before her eyes. I don't see it, baby. What am I looking for? That's just it. You wouldn't notice unless you were specifically comparing templates. Avery pulled up hospital documents on his laptop. See these memos from last year? The margins are different, the logo placement is off-center, and they use a different font package. Naomi arrived minutes later, her heels clicking purposefully down the quiet hospital corridor. Despite the early hour, she looked ready for battle. "Show me everything," she commanded, pulling up a chair. Avery walked them through his discovery. The hospital updated their administrative templates 2 months ago, but this disciplinary memo is supposedly from 6 months before that. "And you're certain about the timeline?" Naomi asked, already taking notes. "I found the IT bulletin announcing the template rollout." Avery turned his laptop to show them. They switched to a new document management system. Everything changed. Formatting, fonts, even the way dates are displayed. Monica's heart began to pound. "So, the memo was created after your arrest," Naomi finished, her voice hard with certainty. "They backdated it to create a false history of problems." By 9 that morning, they had moved to Naomi's office. A forensic document examiner named Dr. Patterson hunched over the memo, comparing metadata and technical details. "The template signatures are definitive," she explained, pointing to code on her screen. "This document uses formatting packages that didn't exist when it was supposedly created. It's like finding a letter from 1950 typed in Times New Roman. Technically, impossible." Monica pressed her hands flat against Naomi's desk, trying to stay steady. "Will it be enough? Combined with the other inconsistencies?" Dr. Patterson nodded. "This is deliberate falsification of evidence. The metadata timestamp alone proves it was created after your arrest." Around 11, Naomi's phone buzzed. Her eyebrows shot up as she read the message. "The younger nurse. The one who testified against you? She wants to meet. Privately." An hour later, they gathered in a small conference room at a neutral law office across town. The nurse, Sarah Martinez, couldn't stop fidgeting with her hands. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered. "I can't sleep. I can't look at myself in the mirror." "Take your time," Naomi said gently. "Just tell us what happened." Sarah's story spilled out in rushed, broken sentences. After Monica's arrest, Vanessa Klein had called her into her office, made it clear that Sarah's continued employment depended on her cooperation. But the real threat came later. "My sister's visa sponsorship," Sarah said, wiping her eyes. "The hospital handles it through their international medical program. Ms.?" Klein said, "If I didn't sign the statement she prepared, she'd have to re-evaluate the sponsorship." Monica felt sick. "She threatened your family?" Sarah nodded, then reached for her phone with trembling fingers. "I was so scared that day. I started recording on my phone when she called me back in." She pressed play. Vanessa's cold voice filled the room. "I trust you understand the consequences of being difficult about this. Your sister's position here is a privilege, not a right. Don't make me regret supporting her visa application." Naomi leaned forward. "You recorded this?" "I knew it was wrong," Sarah whispered. "I knew what they were doing to Monica was wrong, but I was terrified." "You're doing the right thing now," Monica said softly. By mid-afternoon, Naomi's conference room looked like a war room. Evidence boards covered the walls. The fabricated memo. The metadata proof. Sarah's recording. Timeline charts showing how the false narrative was constructed. "It's all connected," Naomi said, drawing lines between events. Vanessa coordinates with Mercer before he arrives. The video conveniently disappears. Witnesses are pressured. False documents appear. This wasn't chaos, it was choreographed. Monica stared at the boards, seeing for the first time how the pieces fit together. "They really thought they could bury the truth." "They almost did," Avery reminded her. "If we hadn't found that template issue—" "But we did find it," Naomi cut in. "And now we have proof of witness intimidation, evidence tampering, and coordination between hospital administration and police." We're not just defending you anymore, Monica. We're taking them all down. The afternoon stretched into evening as they built their offensive strategy. Monica watched Naomi work, her exhaustion giving way to something that felt like hope, or maybe justice. As darkness fell outside, Naomi finally sat back. "Go home," she told Monica firmly. "Get some real sleep. Take care of your mother. Tomorrow, we stop playing defense." "What exactly are we going to do?" Monica asked. Naomi's smile was sharp as a scalpel. "We're going to show them what happens when you try to destroy a good person who refuses to break." The morning sun cast long shadows across the courthouse steps as Monica climbed them beside Naomi. Her mother sat in a wheelchair, insisted on being there despite her recent collapse. Avery pushed the chair, his jaw set with determination. Behind them, Sarah Martinez hugged herself against the morning chill, while Evelyn Price walked with the straight-backed dignity of someone who had waited too long to speak truth. Inside the courtroom, Vanessa Klein sat at the defense table in an expensive gray suit, her posture rigid. Dr. Holloway kept adjusting his tie. Officer Mercer glared from his seat, while his partner Hensley studied the floor. "All rise," the bailiff called. Judge Warren entered, and Monica felt the weight of everything converge in this moment. All the sleepless nights, the public shame, her mother's collapse. It all led here. Naomi opened with surgical precision. "Your Honor, we have new evidence proving deliberate fabrication of documents and witness intimidation." The defense objected immediately, but Naomi was ready. She called their digital forensics expert, who methodically explained how the disciplinary memo's metadata revealed its true creation date. This document uses formatting templates that didn't exist when it was allegedly written, the expert testified, displaying side-by-side comparisons. It's technically impossible for this memo to be authentic. Vanessa's face tightened as her carefully constructed narrative began to crack. Dr. Patterson walked the jury through every technical detail: the font packages, the template signatures, the timestamp data that proved the memo was created after Monica's arrest. Then, Sarah Martinez took the stand, her hands shaking as she gripped the microphone. "Ms. Klein told me I had to sign their statement, or my sister would lose her visa sponsorship," she said, her voice growing stronger. "I was scared, but I recorded what she said to me." The courtroom fell silent as Vanessa's cold threats filled the air. Several jurors leaned forward, their expressions hardening as they heard the naked intimidation in her voice. Next came the dispatch recordings. Naomi played Vanessa's 911 call. "We have a hostile employee refusing to obey orders and creating a disturbance." This call was placed before Officers Mercer and Hensley arrived, Naomi pointed out. Before they could assess the situation themselves, Ms. Klein had already decided how this would end. Officer Mercer shifted in his seat as Naomi called him to testify. She walked him through his body cam footage, timestamp by timestamp. "You arrived already referring to Ms. Reed as the problem nurse, didn't you?" Naomi pressed. "I responded to the information provided," Mercer said stiffly. "Did you investigate her claim about being ordered to falsify records?" "She was being disruptive." "Yes or no, Officer Mercer? Did you investigate her claim?" "She wasn't cooperating." "Because she refused to stop explaining why she wouldn't falsify a medical chart?" Naomi's voice sharpened. "Is that what you call not cooperating?" Mercer's face reddened. "She needed to comply." "Comply with what? An illegal order that could have endangered a patient's life?" "Listen here." Mercer half rose from his chair. "Officer, control yourself," Judge Warren warned. But Mercer was already unraveling. "These people always think they know better than authority." "These people?" Naomi's eyebrows rose. "Could you clarify who you mean by these people, Officer Mercer?" The defense objected desperately, but Mercer's mask had slipped. Several jurors were writing furiously in their notebooks. Dr. Holloway fared no better under questioning. Naomi cornered him with medical records showing the original medication error, then his subsequent attempt to cover it up. "So, rather than document your mistake," Naomi said, "you ordered Ms. Reed to falsify records claiming the patient was combative and needed sedation. Is that correct?" Holloway squirmed. "I was trying to protect the hospital from liability. By ordering a nurse to commit fraud? By endangering a patient's life? I never meant—" "Yes or no, Dr. Holloway? Did you order Ms. Reed to falsify medical records?" The silence stretched. Finally, he whispered, "Yes." When Monica took the stand, she felt strangely calm. The truth was simple, after all. "I refused because it was wrong," she testified. Mr. Price was already in distress from a medication error. Falsifying his chart to claim he needed sedation could have killed him. "I took an oath to protect my patients. No threat to my career could make me break that oath." Her voice never rose, never shook. She described the night with clear precision: the wrong dosage, the cover-up attempt, the arrest that followed. Several jurors nodded as she spoke. Evelyn Price was the final witness. She gripped her cane as she took the stand, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. "I watched that young man grab Ms. Reed's arm while she was trying to save my Walter," she said firmly. "I watched them arrest her for doing the right thing. And I'm here to tell you that if she hadn't caught that medication mistake, if she hadn't refused to falsify those records, my husband might not be alive today." By late afternoon, both sides had rested. The jury filed out for deliberations while Monica sat with her family, waiting. Her mother held her hand. Avery kept his arm around her shoulders. Naomi reviewed her notes one last time. When the bailiff announced the jury was returning, Monica's heart thundered. They all rose as the jurors filed in, their faces unreadable. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" Judge Warren asked. The foreperson stood, holding a single sheet of paper. Monica gripped Avery's hand so tight her knuckles went white. The foreperson's voice filled the hushed courtroom. "In the matter of Reed versus Central Heights Hospital, we find in favor of the plaintiff. We award damages in the total amount of $6,700,000. Monica's knees weakened. Avery caught her elbow as tears spilled down her cheeks. Her mother pressed both hands to her heart, whispering prayers of thanks. Behind them, scattered gasps and murmurs rippled through the gallery. Judge Warren read through the breakdown. $2 million for emotional distress and reputational damage, $1.5 million for lost wages and future earnings, and $3.2 million in punitive damages against the defendants. Vanessa Klein's face had gone ash gray. Dr. Holloway stared straight ahead, his jaw working silently. At the police department's table, Officer Mercer's rage showed in his clenched fists and reddening neck. Furthermore, Judge Warren continued, this court recommends immediate dismissal of all criminal charges against Ms. Reed, with prejudice. He turned to face Monica directly. Ms. Reed, you are fully cleared of any wrongdoing. Naomi squeezed Monica's hand as Judge Warren went on. I am also ordering all evidence of witness tampering and document falsification be forwarded to the district attorney's office for review and possible criminal charges. Within hours, the dominoes began to fall. The nursing board emergency session cleared Monica's license, striking every mark from her record. The hospital board convened an emergency meeting and emerged with a statement announcing Vanessa Klein's immediate termination and an external investigation into systemic failures in ethical oversight and police coordination. Dr. Holloway didn't wait for formal proceedings. His resignation letter landed on the chief of medicine's desk before sunset. Officer Mercer received notice of suspension pending termination, with Internal Affairs launching a broader review of his past conduct. Hensley, seeing the writing on the wall, submitted his retirement paperwork the same day. Outside the courthouse, Monica blinked in the late afternoon sunlight. News cameras caught her emergence, but this time she wasn't a mugshot. She was a woman standing tall, family beside her, truth confirmed at last. Ms. Reed, reporters called out. How does it feel to be vindicated? Monica paused on the steps, Avery's arms steady around her shoulders. This was never about money, she said clearly. This was about right and wrong. About standing up when someone in power tries to force you to do something dangerous and illegal. No nurse should have to choose between their conscience and their career. Sarah Martinez pushed through the crowd to hug her, crying. I'm so sorry I didn't speak up sooner, she whispered. You found your courage when it mattered most, Monica assured her. Evelyn Price made her way over with her cane. You showed them what real integrity looks like, dear. Walter and I are so proud of you. In the weeks that followed, Monica moved with deliberate purpose. She paid off her mother's medical bills and set up a comfortable retirement fund. She covered Avery's remaining pre-law tuition and established a scholarship fund for nursing students from working-class families. But her largest investment went into creating the Reed Foundation for Healthcare Ethics and Legal Defense. This foundation, she explained to Naomi, who agreed to serve on the board, will support any healthcare worker who refuses an illegal or unethical order and faces retaliation. No one should stand alone like I did. The foundation's first action was helping a respiratory therapist who had quit rather than falsify ventilator readings. Then came a pharmacy tech pressured to mislabel medication dates, and an orderly threatened for reporting patient abuse. Word spread through hospital break rooms and nursing stations. There was finally somewhere to turn. 3 months after the verdict, Monica stood at a podium in the state's largest medical conference center. Hundreds of healthcare professionals filled the auditorium. In the front row sat her mother, fully recovered and beaming with pride. Beside her was Avery, who had just finished his first semester of law school with top marks. Evelyn Price sat with them, nodding encouragement. The huge screen behind Monica displayed a simple message that made her throat tight every time she saw it. Refusing an illegal order saved a life. She looked out at all the faces, nurses, doctors, techs, administrators. Some had traveled hundreds of miles to hear her speak. Others were streaming the talk in break rooms across the state. In the third row, she spotted Sarah Martinez, who had recently been promoted to charge nurse herself. Her notes lay untouched on the podium. She didn't need them. She knew exactly what these healthcare workers needed to hear, that doing the right thing might cost you everything, but the truth would eventually surface. That standing alone was terrifying, but you weren't truly alone if you stood by your principles. That sometimes saving a life meant risking your own future to protect a patient's present. The room fell silent as Monica stepped up to the microphone. The lights felt warm on her face, so different from the harsh fluorescence of that hospital hallway where they'd handcuffed her. She drew a deep breath, ready to transform her hardest moment into hope for others. If you enjoyed the story, leave a like to support my channel and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. On the screen, I have picked 2 special stories just for you. Have a wonderful day.